Hey, bitch! It's time for the book club. Hello and welcome to an extra special episode of the Campfire Gaming Podcast. My name is Matt and I will be your host tonight. Tonight is special because it's a book club episode and we all love book club episodes.
I love book club.
Joining me tonight, as you are now hearing him, is the one, the only Rich. How are you doing, Rich?
I'm doing good, man. It's time for book club.
Yeah, I always love doing these. I get so excited.
Yeah. I like it when the community gets involved. I like it when we get involved. It's just a good time for for all of us to kind of like sit and play a game together.
Yeah.
We typically don't unless it's Hell Let Loose.
Yeah. We need to get some Wonderlands in so we can all play together there. But yes. So our book club for March was Ubisoft's Beyond Good and Evil. So we played that for this month, and we had, I guess we'll dig into it. We'll see how we felt about it.
Mm-hmm. Originally released in 2003.
Yep, for some of the good old systems, the Xbox, the PlayStation 2, the GameCube. It was fun kind of looking at the release date for some of these. I'm like, damn, that's so long ago.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. So this game was a really interesting pick because this is something that I never thought that I would play in my entire life. I had never played this game originally, but I do know that it has quite the cult following to it.
Yep.
So I'm going into this completely fresh. Like I have no rose tinted glasses for this game, no nostalgia, no nothing.
Yep.
I don't know what about you?
That was kind of my thing. It was a cult classic and it was always on my list, but I never got around to it till we talked about it, I think about a month ago now, on one of our episodes about Beyond Good and Evil 2. And then we're like, hey, we got to pick a book club game. Let's play Beyond Good and Evil. So, but before we dig in too much here, we'll just want to mention, be sure to check us out at campfiregamingpodcast.com, where you can find links to all our socials, such as YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and a link to our Discord, where you can join in on the conversation, where we chat a lot about not only games and the games we want to play, but sometimes some other weird stuff too. Mostly like sports or tech or stuff. And again, usually related to gaming. But we have a good time, and sometimes we play games with you, especially if you play Hell Let Loose.
Yes.
And again, too, before we get too far into this, there are spoilers ahead. Now, as we mentioned, this game came out in 2003. So you had plenty of time to play it. You can also pause this and go play the game now if you'd like, and then come back. But yes, we will be digging into this, 19-year-old game, if my math is correct. So
before we get into that, what is our next book club game?
I was just going to get to that. So
Hell yeah.
Our book club for April was a community pick, and that game is, I'm going to butcher this, Chicory. Chicory. There you go. I told you I was going to butcher it. Chicory, A Colorful Tale. So this looks like a fun, interesting game. It's on Steam, PlayStation, and the Nintendo Switch, I believe. So you got a couple options there to pick from and play, and it seems to be a relatively affordable one too. I believe it's about $20 on all those platforms. So not breaking the bank there to join us this month, or join us for April's book club episode. So. All right, let's let's dig into Beyond Good and Evil. As we mentioned, it's a cult classic. It follows the story of I guess photographer named,
she's like a journalist,
Jade, a journalist. In just this interesting world where there's not only humans, but there's also like humanoid other animals. I mean, her uncle / guardian is a pig. And Paige, and she lives at a lighthouse, which is doubles as an orphanage, and a shield to protect from aliens.
A shield battery to protect. Was it? I can't remember. Was it just the orphanage that they have the shield for, or was it like the planet? I'm gonna guess it was
It's
just the orphanage.
so if you remember when you're kind of if you're ever out on the water, the kind of I'm gonna call it hub. I know it was still kind of broken up, but the hub ocean water area that you float around to go to the different levels. If you were ever outside, whenever the DomZ, who are the evil aliens, buggish looking things, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
when they attack, you'll notice a lot of the other buildings in the city that I can't remember the name of all have like little
Oh,
shields over them.
yeah.
But
And the
the
reason,
crazy thing about the lighthouse one was at the start, your shield didn't work because the power was out. So
yeah, you didn't pay your electric bill.
yeah, damn electric
That
bill.
damn electric bill. Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of couple of humans, and then I got a lot of humanoid animals. It was kind of an interesting world to go around and seeing. I don't know, what was it? Was there like a shark and
There were
a
shark
bear?
people.
Yeah.
There were like, yeah, there were rhinos. We can
Hmm.
get to the rhinos. I like the rhinos.
Yeah. But yeah, the kind of premise of the story is you're in this mining planet of Hillys,
Hillys. Yep.
and you're under attack by these aliens called the DomZ, and you're trying to dig into the bigger mystery of why they're attacking, and slowly you find out that your friends might not actually, or the people that are there to protect you, might not actually have might not actually be there to protect you. So
Right. Yeah.
the
It's
alpha
the
section.
yep,
Yep.
the alpha section. So they're like a bunch, like from the sounds of things, they're like an intergalactic like space cop kind of a
Hmm.
thing. That's what I got out of it. Is that yeah, they're like an intergalactic space cop force that they try to protect planets and things like that from these aliens. Yeah, the Dom, was it the Dom Z or just the Doms? I don't remember if they
I'm pretty sure they always said Dom Z, but I also think in conversation, sometimes
refer
they
to
would
it as
just call them
Doms. Oh,
The
but
Dom.
plural.
Maybe there was a Z on the end.
Or they it's just the Dom. Well,
Doms.
yeah,
Maybe
the
yeah,
Doms. Yeah. That was kind of confusing.
but they did call it out as the Dom
The Dom
Z.
Z, yeah.
So, um, but yeah. So yeah. I mean, you kick it off. You're under attack. Shit's getting hairy. And yeah, it really kind of gets going right there at the start
Yeah.
for a 2003 game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought the opener was kind of interesting because I
Yeah.
mean, like they dump you into the combat like right away. Like you're in
Yep.
combat right off the bat. Like your tutorial is they throw a couple of aliens at you and you have to beat the hell out of them with a torch. Because
Yep.
now all of a sudden they're like capturing all the kids and things like that, and now you're trying to just like fend them off so that you can rescue all the kids in the orphanage. Um,
Correct.
yeah, it was kind of an interesting start to the game, and then Jade gets sucked underground. Paige shows up. He introduces him. He tosses her a stick, a big stick, and then she beats the hell out of something, some other
The
dom,
weird,
and
yeah, the weird alien.
like I don't know what it
Was
was
that
called.
that was the no? Yeah, I don't think the different. Maybe if we looked up the deep lore of the game, we'd find out the name of the different type of enemies. But it was the enemy that kind of captured a few of the orphans, didn't it, and kind of encase it.
Yeah,
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 that was weird.
yeah, yep.
But yeah, and then I guess this is where you kind of get introduced. I got a little lost on this. Maybe I missed it throughout the game, and they dropped more hints at it, and I was just completely oblivious to it. But you get a weird little like she started tripping phase where she defeated, and then she started having these weird. I don't know. I'm gonna call them flashbacks, but there was some sort of like she saw that weird alien with an eye and a statue, and do you remember? I think they only really teased that there at the
Like
start,
once,
and
yeah.
then more at the end, and then it was kind of
They
because I was
reveal what it is at the end,
yeah,
why they do
but
that. But yeah, she just faints at the very beginning of the game.
mhm.
Yeah, but yeah, they do acknowledge that at the end of the game of why that is, and yeah, we'll get into that. Um,
But yeah, I mean, literally, I mean, kind of. I thought the start was fun. I enjoyed it, but they really did, yeah, kind of throw you into everything. I mean, as
like
a
right
lot of
away. But I mean,
yeah,
to be fair, like if there's one thing that it was really apparent throughout playing this game is that the combat is insanely simple. Like,
yes,
and that was one like that might actually be a gripe for me is that like you don't really get a whole lot of new things to do in combat. Like, you get a couple of extra items, right, to
Yep.
help you with some of the puzzles later on. But, like, for the most part, when you're doing combat, especially through the first half of the game, you're literally just, at least for me, I played it on PC. I was just sitting there mashing click, and it didn't
Yep.
matter what I did. It's just you move to attack the different things, and it kind of auto attacks it for you, and
Yeah, and
they
that
do
was
the Power Rangers thing where all the enemies kinda, like, sit off to the side or whatever, and then,
until
like
yeah.
and then they come in one at a time kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was like you're right. It was very very simple combat because even then there was there was like a power upgrade for your melee attacks, but it never really felt like it didn't like add any extra moves. You had for me you were hitting whatever your keyboard. I was just hitting X, right? It was just
Mhm.
X X X X. Maybe if I saw one of the other aliens that were around me throughout the game that were about to attack, maybe I'd hit like A to try to dodge it. I think that was the dodge key
Okay.
or button, and then or I would just there was always that kind of little stun phase if you were just hitting something.
Mhm.
So if I saw something about to attack me, I would just change my focus over to the enemy that was about to attack me because they were a little slow. Uh, they telegraph their attacks pretty well, so
Mhm.
there was never like
Especially for the bosses too.
yeah.
I thought the bosses also did like, they really, really made it apparent on how they were going to attack you, and
Hmm.
even the bosses were kinda easy.
Yeah, it was, which to me I don't think was necessarily bad. Going into this, I knew it was a game where obviously there's going to be combat, and you're trying to uncover some weird mystery, and you were going to do that by kind of being a journalist and taking pictures, and I thought there was
Right.
going to be a little bit more to that gameplay loop, which was it was fun. It started out where you're just kind of taking pictures of a lot of different animals. That's how you get some of
That's how you get
your
money.
your money, right?
Yep.
And I thought that was a really neat aspect of the game, but I also felt it kind of fell off a lot towards the second half of the game. Uh, so it was just kind of
It
that's
got
kind of the
really
gameplay loop.
repetitive, I think, and,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get into this, but yeah, there's a reason why it's so prevalent in the game. Um, but let's get into that. Like, I guess what's moving forward a little bit, you help Paige fix a boat because you
Yep.
find out that, yeah, okay, the Alpha Sector is here. You get tasked to do a mission. Basically, it's your first like dungeon mission
Yep.
where you have to go to Black Isle. You have to meet with um what's his name? Mr. Castanet
Da-
why can't I remember the name?
Casta.
Casta
Yeah. What was
something.
Mr. De Casta? Was it Castellac?
De
Castella?
Castellac, thank
De
you. Yes.
Castellac.
It is Mr. De Castellac. Yeah.
Yep.
So it gives you a mission that's like, "Oh yeah, you need to take a picture of this thing and I'll give you money," and it's really
Yep.
secretive. Um to which you find out that it's really just a test to be part of some secret organization called Iris, which the Alpha Sector, as you kind of navigate through the game,
Hmm.
the Alpha Sector has a lot of like on-screen messaging talking about how Iris is bad. Don't trust Iris, and then you start working for
Hmm.
Iris, and then yeah, I think for a little while, like Jade doesn't really trust Iris either because they're super
Yeah.
secretive, and it's kind of like there's a little sketchiness to them.
And there was that kind of again that whole they were the rebels, right? Don't
Right.
they're just trying to spread this lies about the alpha as the time goes on, the alpha section, right? Because
Hmm.
as the story kind of unfolds, you find out that the alpha section are kind of working along the DomZ, right? So obviously, yeah, when you're in the different cities and there's the different kind of like videos of what was his name, the alpha section. I wrote it down here somewhere. The general guy, oh shit, General Kekachek. Anyways, the general, yeah,
The general, yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of videos of him like join join against the fight of the DomZ and blah blah blah.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, it was just yeah,
And
it was just
that's
yeah, so she didn't really trust Iris at the start.
right. And I mean, funny enough, like I didn't really either because I thought like when you first kind of get introduced to him, it all just kind of like lands on your lap
Hmm.
as to like when you get introduced to Mr. DeCastellac, which is really I can't remember what his name was. The
Han.
Han, thank you.
Yeah, you find out it was Han who was one of the
He's one of the members of Iris, yeah.
yeah.
And so it kind of just falls in your lap. And when you're talking with Han, I was like, okay, like, is this going to be one of those things where it's like, oh, the alpha section is bad, Iris is good, and then like by the end of the game, it's going to like flip or something like that.
Yeah,
And it turns out, well, no, it's really actually just like I thought it was almost too cliche to
yeah,
be like, oh, that's the direction they're going with it. But no, it actually like, yeah, they're playing off the fact that like, yeah, the government is kind of spewing propaganda at the citizens to be compliant with the alpha section, and then
hmm
as we kind of go through some of the missions, like you find out why they're trying to get everybody to be compliant so that they can do stuff. And yeah, it's yeah, kind of breaking that down. I mean, we can go into some of the I guess some of the story. I mean, like, did you think that this was a pretty compelling story? Because like I've heard, like, the thing I hear a lot about from people who are big fans of Beyond Good and Evil is that like they really really like the story of it.
hmm
It's like the game is kind of, the gameplay mechanics are kind of criticized, but the story is what
yeah,
everybody kind of leans on. And I thought personally that it was on the weaker side.
yeah. It was. I definitely was expecting a stronger story because I figured this was just going to be one of those kind of maybe wonky or clunky games, but the story is what and the characters are what really made it this cult classic. That's what you get with some sort of kind of setup like that with a lot of different cult classics, right? There might be
Right.
something not great about the game, but there's something that really shines. And I thought that was going to be the story and the characters, and it just it felt well. First off, it felt like the story just went by like they just kind of pushed you through it really quick, right?
Yeah.
I definitely thought there was going to be that kind of like, okay, obviously, I think it was a good. I didn't think it was bad that they kind of thrust you right into the conflict between the DomZ and the Alpha section. It was kind of a good intro to the game,
Right.
but I thought there was going to be a little bit more of like a breathing period where I was just going to be that journalist that takes picture of animals and hey, this is fun, and then like I don't know, you get caught up in something. I mean, you end up going to was it Black Isle or whatever, and that's when you get pulled. But it was like right away. That was like you're right after you're done fixing the boat after the DomZ attack. You're right over the Black Isle there, and then you're right in the shit and oh, it's join Iris, and the Alpha section are bad along with the DomZ, and it was just it went really quickly. I also saw off also thought that a lot of the characters were pretty weak as well. I mean, like Paige to me, I thought was going to be a bigger character, and like he was,
Yeah.
but he actually gets kidnapped in the
And then yeah,
second
and then
mission,
he's gone for most of the game. Yeah.
and I liked him the little bit we had. And some of his interactions with Jade, but once he was gone, he was replaced with just a doofus of a character,
Mhm.
which ends
Double
up being the
H.
yeah. The after you speak with Iris, after the Black Isle, you're tasked with going to the factory and finding another agent that's disappeared, and the factory is where you're really going to kind of find out, or you're trying to find out what the DomZ are doing here and what the Alpha, and anything you can find on the Alpha section, and you meet up with another Iris agent, Double H, and you save him because he got captured and all that, but like he's just this really weird doofus that was quoting things from some handbook that again this was another one of those things where maybe it's something in the world and I missed it, but he kept I forget what it was because him and Jade ended up having this like he would oh don't leave your friend behind or something from the such and such handbook, and Jade's like yeah I know or whatever. I'm like where did this come from? Like
Yeah, I
what
don't
is
know.
this handbook
I
thing?
kind of wish they would have just replaced him with Paige. I would have
Yeah,
rather played the rest of the game with Paige because he was really like, he was a really fun character
yeah,
for Jade to interact with, whereas Double H was not that interesting
no,
compared, like comparatively he was not as interesting.
hmm
And so like I liked how Paige and Jade kind of banter back and forth about stuff too, and it was just, I
yeah,
don't know. One of the things that, so after like all that Black Isle stuff, that's when you start getting into like you said, like it starts to put the foot on the gas quite a bit.
yep,
Um, the only thing that I think was really kind of slowing it down, and I didn't expect this getting into the game, is it does some of the same stuff that I gave a lot of shit to Psychonauts for, and that's
hmm
forcing you to go and collect things to
yep,
progress through the game. Not so much as like, I didn't know I was signing up for a collectathon sort of a thing,
Yeah.
but they made it that's what they made the player do, and I feel like that was more or less a cheap way to extend the playtime of the game.
It
And they
was.
do it a lot more than
Mhm.
Psychonauts. And that is one of the biggest criticisms I'm going to give this game is that I hated having to go and hunt down all the pearls and then farm money to buy pearls and then farm money to buy things to find pearls. And it was
Yeah.
just like I was getting so annoyed with all the rigmarole of having to oh yeah, oh, just go to the factory. Okay, oh no, there's a ship blocking your way to the factory. Okay.
Yep. So one of the
So what
more
do I do?
interesting
Yeah, it was like, so what the hell do I do, I guess.
yeah, that I thought so kind of want to touch on this before, but like between a lot of these little dungeons or levels, you're kind of let out into the again. I'm going to call it open world, even though they were still kind of broken into sections that were loading screens between them. But it was kind of this big lake rivery area, right? And
Mhm.
you had a hovercraft, but the hovercraft was used, like you're saying, to gate you from getting to a lot of times the next area because you
Right.
needed to upgrade it, right? You had
Yep.
to go to well, actually one of my favorite places to go because uh it was just so it was like a Rastafarian,
Yeah. Mama
like
go. You go
Mama
to
Goes Garage was
right,
that
yeah.
was to me the best part of the game. But you go there and what were they? Those were rhinos, right? It
Yeah, there were
was the
rhinos.
rhinos, and they were just these like Rastafarian bros that were just there to upgrade your ship.
And
But
of course, the only way that you can do it is by spending pearls.
yeah,
And not just pearls, but they're pearls that you can only get once, which I thought was really weird. Like, it's not a currency that you can kill a bunch of mobs and farm like you can with the purple currency, the C's, I think is what it's
yep,
called, the dollars of this world. Um, you can go and win races and play messed up air hockey and things like that to get that kind
mhm,
of money, and you have to use that money to buy items to find either more money or more pearls. And the
yep,
only way you can get pearls is a one-time use. So once you spend the pearl, that pearl is gone forever.
yep,
You can't go and get more other than I think there's a total of 88 total pearls that you can get,
yeah. There's definitely
which is
that.
more
I
than
mean,
enough.
that's nice. There's more pearls than you actually need to get the final upgrade for your hovercraft, which
Yeah.
is a space engine, right? Or
Mhm.
spaceship engine. But yeah, no, that definitely it it. I didn't have any issues. I think they were called Starkos, by the way,
The
the
tacos.
currency. And
No, that was the
no,
Taco
those are the
Bell.
tacos.
Yeah.
What were they then?
I thought they were
I
called
thought I remember.
C's, like CEES.
Could be it, sure. So
I don't
whatever, yeah.
remember.
Anyways, whatever the currency was I never had an issue with the currency. I seem to always have enough, and I always tried to buy the Starkos, the tacos, and the
Yep.
K bups,
Yep.
and any of the health or the ship upgrades. So I always seem to have enough of that. And early on, I did a pretty good job of. I didn't get everything, and I
Right.
wasn't forcing myself to get everything, but um, I think it was after Black Isle, I had enough cash to go to where you bought a lot of the upgrades was the Ming Su's
Yeah.
shop.
His shop.
But yeah, so I
That's where
bought the
the pearl
pearl and the
finder.
animal detector early
Okay.
on.
Yep. I
And
only
again,
bought the pearl detector.
the animal one didn't seem to matter as much in my opinion. I found myself looking for the pearl one, and it was more reference, mostly because up until right before you go to the last level, I was fine with the C's and the pearls. I always had enough to buy whatever I needed and buy the upgrades that I needed. But it wasn't until yeah. But to your point, I got really pissed off there right before the last level because, as you would imagine, you are required to have more and more pearls to upgrade the ship. And I think I had only one or two right before the last level, and it required 30 pearls. And I'm
Yeah.
going
And
like
you're just
I
like,
missed one or
shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
I missed one or two in like probably each level, right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not going back to all of those. And I started looking around the map. The nice thing, at least, I found out it was still, again, to your point, a gate that didn't need to be there. Uh, but there were a couple places, if you looked on the map, that there was like their icons, their graphic for like a high concentrate of pearls. It was like multiple little pearls icon.
Yeah.
I went for those first, and after I think four, three, four, five of those, I ended up having 30, and it was enough. And I didn't feel like I had to go back and try to work my way through the levels. But maybe somebody that didn't take enough pictures of the animals or didn't get a couple of those pearls, missed more pearls throughout the levels. I mean, that would have had to have been frustrating, and like, because it
Yeah.
definitely frustrated me. But
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get I think I got quite a few of them off of the levels themselves, and
hmm
then I did what you did. I went to those high like it was like 5 pearls stacked on top of each
yep.
other or something like that is what the little icon was. Yeah, and that
Did
was what
you
yeah.
did you go to the volcano?
No.
So that one saved me a lot because again, I didn't miss a lot, but as I was focusing on getting the groupings of them, I noticed there was one out there. If you're in right before the whatever the second to last level, you get like kind of a spaceship attachment to
Oh, I
your
did.
hovercraft.
Yeah,
But I flew over to the volcano,
and it's got the
and
bugs in there.
yeah, but it had like
Yeah.
12 of them or something in there. So, I was like, shit, this is awesome, because I was afraid I have to go, because I think that was my last grouping of pearls before I would have had to start focusing on the individual ones. And you mentioned that stupid air hockey thing. I did spend about 10
I
minutes trying to win that one. And I said,
That dude
fuck
cheats.
this.
Yeah, that dude fucking cheats, man.
It was so wonky. I don't know if the controls might have been a little bit better to aim on PC using the mouse, but holy shit, that sucked. Because there were
Yeah.
so many times some would come over and because of so it's, yeah. So think of an air hockey table, but in the middle, there's what, about a foot bar that goes across with a weird little curved channel in the middle. And it's all about hitting all the pucks on the other player's
Yeah.
side, and you each start with four. And if a lot of the times my pucks would bounce in areas that I didn't have good shots at the channel, so I'd have to shoot it away and then try to shoot it back in. But I hated it. I got so pissed at it. And I was like,
I
I'd spent
never
about
won either. Yeah, I never won against him. I tried to get the pearl that he had, and I just couldn't do
mhm.
it.
Yeah, I was swearing at my screen. I'm like, fuck you, whatever he was, whatever animal he was.
The shark dude.
Shark thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. It was definitely a design in the game that was very frustrating, and it prolonged the game when it didn't need to. But and
It seems
maybe
like
it's
that's what
because it was already a short game.
and that's what I was just about to get into is that when you start getting into the factory and the slaughterhouse and you realize like how far you are into the game and how far the story has progressed, you realize this game is a lot shorter than you probably
Yep.
expected. And really what the time you end up sinking into it is either if you are kind of like a completionist, then yeah, like there's a fair amount to do. Like you got
Yeah.
pictures you can take of different things. Like if you're not going for the money or whatever, you can find all of the different animals that you can take pictures of and fill out that I don't know whatever that was like that science journal or whatever.
Yeah.
Or yeah, you can go and try and collect all the pearls and go to the different like there's stuff for that. But like if you're just trying to get through the story of the game, like it does feel like such a hard roadblock to just
hmm
extend the gameplay like the time spent playing the game rather than having the levels be long enough to actually be a full like campaign so to speak. It like
Yeah.
honestly I do feel like it feels like there's cut content, like there was cut levels or like some of the
Probably.
levels got like halved or something like that because it just feels like they were like weirdly short. Some
hmm
of them didn't have a boss, if I
Yeah.
remember. Like I think one of them didn't have a boss, and one of them had two bosses.
Yeah.
I think it
Well, I
was the
mean, even
factory that had two bosses, and the slaughterhouse I don't think had. Well,
yeah. No, the factory had two, because you had that weird monster that with the one eye or whatever that grabbed Paige to start
yeah,
with and then
that
jumped up on a ledge, and then at the end that weird eyeball DomZ thing that went into like and made that weird robot thing that you had
yeah,
to
and you
shoot
have
the
to attack the
legs, and
arms or
yeah.
the legs or whatever. Yep. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's two bosses in the factory, and I'm pretty sure there wasn't one in the slaughterhouse.
Yeah. Correct. Because that was kind of one of the, I'd say, the largest level, just because it was separated and required you to
Sneak.
sneak, and also uh, the three pictures you had to take were kind of in three separate locations that were separated by you using the hovercraft to
Right.
float around.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, it's like I wasn't trying to sprint this. I was trying to kind of get a little taste of everything outside of it, but it definitely was. If it was a frustrating aspect for them to kind of gate progression that way to force you to do it, especially since, as I mentioned, it felt like towards the end of the game, I don't know why I was weirdly looking forward to this, but part of the game was, you're taking pictures of animals, and you're whatever,
You're the journey. Yeah.
and I thought that was going to be more of the game. So I felt like, had they had more opportunities or build out that gameplay there, maybe that would have been the way to that you earn enough pearls instead of having to where you go do this dumb little side stuff. For people that realize, oh yeah, I just want to take all these pictures, and then hopefully, in theory, by the end, or by the time you need them, you would have enough. But it just falls off, and a lot of the
Yeah.
levels didn't have animals in it, right? And the a lot of the open world area stuff was just, there wasn't a lot there again. So it was a little disappointing to me in that aspect, because it was a part of the gameplay I was looking forward to.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, I felt like it was pretty disjointed. Like there was
Yep.
a lot of different things to do in this game, but a lot of it it wasn't necessarily cohesive. And
There
that like
was.
you didn't have to do the races to really get a good well, you have to do the races, but like doing the races doesn't really add anything else other than just another means of getting money. Playing the like
Yeah.
air hockey thing was just another means of getting money to
Hmm.
help you on your scavenger hunt. So really everything kind of wraps around the scavenger hunt, but then you go to like all of these different side missions where you have to like take pictures of things, and it doesn't it doesn't feel very well connected with the other parts of the game, I guess
Hmm.
is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and it kind of would have been nice too, and maybe this is more due to the age of the game and what could have been done there. But like, you're sneaking into a lot of these, like the factory and the slaughterhouse, and you're taking and the moon base. We haven't talked about that yet. You get to the moon, and you're there to take pictures of specific things, but it's very, curated. Like, it's, well, you got to get to this part of level, and that's where you take the picture. It would have been nice
Mhm.
that, like, hey, I need a picture of this and this in this area, and then you just, have a couple different opportunities or different places, or maybe that's where some of the gameplay comes into. You have to, figure out how to get that picture, not just, hey, just play through the level, and this is when a audio clip will come up where it's like, well, here's where you take the picture of this, and then you have a little conversation. Again, that might be more just due to the age of the game and kind of what games were doing at that time and capable of doing in
Yeah, that could be.
2003. So
I mean, I think like especially I think the slaughterhouse had a fair amount of like backtracking to
mhm.
it as well, where you had to kind of navigate around different places. But
Yeah.
I mean, even in like yeah, I mean they utilize the picture thing a little bit. And then in terms of the story, like it's almost like the photography thing was almost a way to like give justification to the story, because the whole reason you
Mhm.
go into the factory, right, is that you're trying to find incriminating evidence that the alpha section is like doing bad things to a
Yeah.
lot of the population of Hillys.
Yeah, and
So
find out what the DomZ are they're doing, which, as you said, they're actually kidnapping,
they're kidnapping people,
a
yes.
bunch of the population for their devious plans.
Hmm. Which I think, yeah, you find out even more of that when you get to the slaughterhouse and you're trying to rescue Paige from slaughterhouse.
Yeah, the slaughterhouse is really where you're kind of, yeah, trying to figure. Well, one, you track down Paige, and kind of figure out. I think that was where you really figure out that they're doing the whole human trafficking thing, where because you take one of the pictures is, I think a bunch of them are. Is that the one where they were all getting loaded into like a ship, right?
Yeah, because well, I
Yeah,
think they're getting prepped to be sent to the moon base.
to the yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, uh,
So I mean, like the levels for what they were, I think were pretty cool. I mean, especially I think when you're doing a lot of like the stealth sections and the I think it was the slaughterhouse. I mean, really, all you had to do, you didn't have to like. That was again like the combat is just so simplistic. You don't really even
Hmm.
have to fight them if you don't want to. You just give them a boot to the ass and then they
Yeah.
die. Like you didn't really
I
have to do anything.
see this is a big reason I'm not a huge fan of stealth, or I just fail at stealth. I try it and then I'm too impatient, and then I end up just doing a bunch of just killing. That's how I
Hmm.
play Assassin's Creed.
Sure.
Um, but this was definitely one of the frustrating things with the stealth is there was many areas that you had to get through where if they even just spotted you, they had one of those weird turret guns that was just an insta kill. It wasn't even like, hey, you got a bunch of health bars. It'll just shoot at you until you get away or you kill it or the thing. It was like, nope, you got spotted. So it was one of those. This is a forced stealth area, and if you get spotted, you're screwed. Like, too bad. Retry. And it was for me. That's not a huge stealth fan. I was kind of frustrating on a few of those because, as I said, I get impatient and then I just start moving quicker, and then I get spotted. And but yeah, no, I mean, even the stealth was
I mean,
it
you didn't
was
have to be stealthy. Yeah.
it was well, there was a couple play like you had to be stealthy enough that they didn't see you and then trigger the turret, right? You could take
Fair.
them out,
Okay. Yeah.
um, but if they whatever did their "Rah!" and then the searching thing, and there was one of those turrets around, you were instantly killed. But yeah, I mean, even the stealth mechanic was kind of again maybe just sign of the times, but like it was usually them just walking the same path back and forth or standing there, and every few seconds they just turn 90 degrees
Yep.
and then they turn back 90 degrees. It's like, okay,
How convenient. Yes.
yeah,
I
lucky
like this.
me.
Yeah. Just so happens he just rotated the correct
Yeah.
wrong way. Hmm.
Again, I would say that's just more of what was capable at the time and limits of the technology. I wouldn't really knock it for it.
Which
I
is
mean, it
fair.
seems silly now,
Yes, yes.
19 years later,
And
but
you yeah, the game kind of shows its age and it like yeah, I don't know, like I think that it's overall probably not as good as a lot of people remember it being. Again, like go when you end up going to the moon base and some of the big reveals are revealed, it's just like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, so Jade is the chosen one."
yeah.
Like that's so lame. Like I was like, that's so lame.
I
Like why? That's dumb. Like because
there,
I'm not gonna lie, I was like, so you get to the moon base, right?
yep.
You go after you go through the factory, the slaughterhouse, you get all the stuff that you need, and you're done screwing around with pearls. You launch your ass up to the moon, and then you go through it like one of the kind of the final dungeon before you end up at the last boss of the game.
Hmm.
And I was amazed that they killed Paige off. I was like,
Yep.
"Holy shit, man! Like they actually did it! Like those crazy like those crazy Ubisoft people."
Yep.
And then I was so disappointed right after that because they like completely like 180 on it, and they just like, "Oh yeah, she touches him, and
Yeah.
she's all of a sudden got magical bullshit powers, and then she brings him back to life." And it's like,
I think that's where like
okay,
again, it, again, this story's not like some crazy new,
no,
blows your mind type thing, but like that was I think what frustrated me again about the start and then the end and trying to introduce this whatever chosen ones thing because right you get the weird little flashbacky things or whatever that vision things at the start of the game as I mentioned, and
mm-hmm.
it's never touched on again
Nope,
until
not
you get
until
up
the
there.
very end of the game. Yeah,
You Paige, you find Paige and he's dead and sad, and Jade hugs him, touches him, right?
yep,
And then like I'm running away to do the rest of the game. No, I'm sorry. You run past him. You do what is that? So when you get the picture and you find the DomZ head alien talking to the general of the Alpha section, you get
mm-hmm.
that picture to send back to the Hillys so they can
Yep. They
send it
get all
out
mad,
and get everybody everybody against the Alpha
right?
section and the DomZ, and then you're on your way back. It's like, oh, sad. He's still just laying there, just dead pig in the middle of the room. And then you're moving about your day, and then like all of a sudden, like I go to get through like that was it's a doorway to get to another loading screen, and
Yep.
right before you get there, you get triggered, and Paige just runs up. He's like, "Hey guys,
Hey
what's
guys, I'm
happening?"
alive.
I'm like, what?
Yeah,
What just
it's just
happened?
such a weird reveal. It's just like, oh, okay, I guess you're alive.
And it was
Yeah.
just, I forget what the dialogue was, but it was just like an awkward explanation of like, when you touched me, your
Brought my
energies.
soul back. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just weird. And
Jade
then it
has
kind of,
yeah.
yeah, and then it kind of came up again whenever you end up fighting. So I guess from there you go to escape and sabotage the moon base. You fight off the general and his weird little spidery spaceship thing, and then you start as then you fight the DomZ boss,
Mhm.
which again that's where they kind of introduce this like. What was it the DomZ boss thing was mentioned like, oh, you're special and I need your powers, and again it was a lot of like, what is going on, like none of this is explained. We don't know anything in this universe about, force sensitive humans, and their healing abilities. Like, it was again, it kind of like that storyline just felt just thrown in there with no explanation. You see it at the start, you get a bit at the end, and then if you assuming you beat the game and you beat the boss, it's just, oh, you're the chosen one, and you heal everybody, and everybody goes back to Hillys, and you start a rebellion to fight against the Alpha Section and the DomZ, and that's the game.
Yeah, and then that's the game. Yep.
It was, yeah, so
Yeah.
it
So
was
I mean like the
it's weird.
story, I don't see why people like give this game so much credit for its story.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting. It's kind of like I don't know, it's okay. Like the story is okay. It's very basic is what I would
Mhm.
call it. It's like it's very
Yeah.
basic, it's kind of tropey, and then they try to mash a bunch of things there at the end that was just like there really has to have been cut content in this game because I feel like they
Something.
probably established something along these lines that allowed her like that kind of either hinted at this better or maybe there was like cutscenes that were missing or something
Mhm.
like that. Like there had to have been something that to explain this a little bit better because yes, it just kind of gets dumped on you like a ton of bricks that like yeah, you got like this alien thing a part of you, Jade, and you have like all these special bullshit powers and I want to use your powers to do stuff with it and it's just like,
Yeah, and if she's this weird, like,
"Oh,
chosen one thing, like, again, if she's supposed to be some powerful something, again, maybe her only power is that if she touches things and then 10 minutes later they come back to life, but, like, nothing else throughout the game kind of, she didn't have, like, again, it was, as we mentioned, just basic melee combat.
mhm,
You had another little gadget that shot discs to help you through some of the puzzly things in the level, but it
right."
was never like, again, there was never reference to being, hey, you're some whatever, you got some other powers, or even use that healing power again somewhere or hint at it, right?
Mhm.
It was just,
Right. I thought I would like and I yeah. I was kind of hoping that it would get a little bit more interesting where you had to do more with engaging with the alpha sector or
yeah,
alpha section rather than just like going to two different levels to take some pictures of what they're doing there and then that's it. Then
yeah,
you're going to the moon and trying to finish off the game. I feel like I was a lot more interested when they did things like, you get Paige's boots, his fart boots, and
yep,
you have to like look at the bottom of the fart boots to like get a code for something and I thought like stuff like that was really cool when they introduced like those kinds of puzzles
hmm.
but like they use it so sparingly. There was
Well,
so little like content around that.
one thing I want to give props to, this is kind of sidetrack a little bit, the the way you enter codes,
Is
how they did that in the game, at least for console, that needs to be like the new standard. That was so easy. If there's any game where you have to like enter text, don't pop up the stupid keyboard. Pop up
just
that weird little
rotating,
scrolly. That was so easy and awesome to use with a controller. It was just so simple, and I put in. They weren't fancy codes. It was 4 characters, right? So it
right?
wasn't taking me an hour to put in,
But
but it was
better
just like,
than just using a QWERTY keyboard, right? You
yeah,
just rotate it. Yeah.
yeah. Maybe
I mean,
that's
even
why
on the
it's got a cult classic. It had an amazing way to enter codes.
yeah, like you had a like even on the PC it wasn't too bad. I just kind of had to like rotate my mouse a little
Hmm.
bit and then I could get the letters that I wanted. And yeah,
Yeah,
honestly like that was pretty nice. That
yeah,
actually was pretty solid to get the yeah, at least the letters and the numbers on there.
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Um
sidetrack from the
no,
farty
that's
boots.
fine. No, that's fine. One thing, while we're giving the game props for stuff, so this is what I was going to mention before we were starting is that the one thing that I really want to give this game props to is its soundtrack. its soundtrack is amazing. It's
It
so
was
like they really, really did a good job of selling the feel on almost everything, whether you're in Mamago or whether you're, doing a dungeon and you're doing a stealth section or like
mhm.
the high combat or even like the combat from like the very beginning where they had like those weird like chants or whatever and you got like the epic music going on. It all sold. Like it all sold me and I thought it was just great.
The soundtrack sold me the first time I went to Mama Goes. It was just goofy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I
No,
like
I
that.
love
Like I
Mama
kept
Goes.
getting it like stuck in my head every time you go to the Akuta bar. Like you go to the Iris headquarters and you listen to
Mhm.
that same song, the propaganda, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
propaganda. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm like jamming out to this shit. This is good.
Yeah. But, I mean, kinda jumping back to about your story and just feeling like the story, and your theory on cut content is it really does feel like that, and that maybe is why I
Hmm.
wonder if there was a grander scale to the
There
design and the
has to,
levels,
yeah. I
and
feel like there has to have been.
and they probably and maybe that's what caused them to put in the weird pearly stuff and the collection, gating with the pearls is they realized that whatever they probably had a date they had to hit, had to cut a bunch of stuff, and then we realized again, oh, I can beat this in 5 hours. How do we extend it? And threw some of those easy collection things in there, and then gated the player to go do the other little, like, what was it, the little cave races or the thief chases, and then the races. Yeah, and honestly, like, that was the thing, is like those things they forced you to do were not like they weren't fun or well designed. And again, you could go back to the argument, oh, this was 2003, but like it was just like the races were just lame, right? Again,
I mean, I didn't think they
potentially
were that
potentially
bad.
is tacked on just to have another way for you to try to
Yeah,
grab a pearl. But yeah, it was.
they were okay, but yeah, it wasn't very like in. As far as I know, they only had the one mini game, which was the air hockey thing.
Yeah.
I don't recall there being anything else. So they didn't really populate the world. Like they had a cool world, but they didn't populate it with enough stuff
Hmm.
to make it that much more interesting. I mean, they had some neat locations so that you could go and explore. And I feel like honestly for the time period, that is pretty damn ambitious. Like they
Yeah.
had that open world sort of concept on I mean, Ubisoft has been doing it forever apparently,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I think it was pretty okay. It was definitely ambitious, and it feels like there was probably some cut content in there because, yeah, I
Yeah.
do feel like there was missing story or just extra things that they probably wanted to do but didn't. And so the game
Yeah.
kind of suffered for it by making you arbitrarily collect a shitload of pearls to
Hmm.
buy upgrades that were necessary to get to each level.
Again, I think I would have given a little bit more pass if I had Paige the whole way through instead of Double H. So kind of as a goofball, and not in a fun way.
No, he was kind of
But
dumb.
how'd you like the final boss battle?
I thought it was
That
fine.
was that was probably the, I'll say, harder and more
Yeah,
well
like
designed boss battle throughout the game.
yeah, I thought it was fine.
I,
Everything else
I
felt honestly, everything else before that felt really easy, and this felt not
yeah,
as easy.
I definitely. Well, I think for two reasons to me that it didn't feel easy. I didn't. I like the design of it as far as boss battles go in the game, but I don't know if you had the same problem, or again, maybe I missed something with the mechanic because that boss battle was a little goofy. But like when the clones or whatever, the weird images of a page kind of dropped in, you had to hit him into the crystal. I seem to be able to get like whatever, there was 4 or 5 of those crystals in the wall. I was able to get the whatever, all but one of them, like no trouble. And then trying to hit the last crystal, I could never hit a page. Like it took me for like 20 pages before I hit the right direction or angle for it to hit that crystal. So that kind of was like, what the heck? What am I missing here? There's something like. But
Um,
how did you like the very last part of the boss battle? How did you like that part where they kind of goof up the controls?
oh, it didn't take me long to figure out what they were doing because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like when you're using like WASD, it's pretty up, it's pretty easy to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, So it didn't take me too long. I didn't even think it was actually that annoying, if I'm being honest. I figured out, I'm like, oh, okay, so like when this happens, I just have to flip my controls around. All right, that's
Mhm.
fine. Like I didn't see it as like a really big hindrance, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
So what happens is you fight through this weird DomZ aliens there, and you have to fight him off, hit him a bunch of times with your disc thrower, but you couple phases where you end up puts up a crystal wall. You have to break through it and then hit him again. Once you hit him enough times, then he actually comes down and starts attacking you. And he'll like attack from the right, the left, in front, and behind. And the first half of that fight, you just you aim right, you hit attack, you aim left, you hit attack. And their weird, fun little tricky way was like the last phase of that was he disorients Jade and everything's reversed. So forward is back, back is forward, right
Yeah.
is left, and left is right. And again, I picked that up real easy. The problem was fighting my brain, going, okay, he's to the right, let me go left, right? And honestly, I had to laugh because the way I beat it, again, I played this on Xbox, so I literally flipped my controller upside down and I beat it. Like I was like, again, it was like I got him so close so many times, but like it was just constantly fighting my brain and wanting to go right when he was to the right. And then finally, I was like, screw it. I just flipped the controller upside down, put my fingers in the right position, beat him right away. I was like, that was easy. You want to screw with me? I'm gonna screw with you now.
Easy mode. That okay, so that is so kind of not exactly related to that, but somewhat of a kind of related to it's not related to that. Basically, it's a gripe that I have, not so much with those controls, but I had a really big gripe with a couple of technical things of the game too.
I did
One
want to
of
mention one or two things as well here.
one of
So,
them being the camera, especially when you're on the boat. I felt like I was when you're on the hovercraft or whatever. I felt
mm-hmm.
like I was fighting the camera all the time where it was like sometimes I could use my mouse to spin the camera around so that I could look around and sometimes I couldn't and it was really annoying and frustrating to deal with. And same thing with being on foot too. There were a bunch of different cases where like I think there was some parts where like you had a pretty static camera angle and you couldn't start flipping around to see what you were looking like look
Mm-hmm.
around stuff. And it was really, really frustrating and annoying to deal with the
That's
camera.
definitely that was going to be one of the technical things I brought up. I found myself in combat towards what was it? Was it when you were in the slaughterhouse? I think it was on the hovercraft, constantly fighting the camera. I honestly, to
Yeah.
me, the hardest part about this game was the camera. That was the
Yes.
hard. That was the one boss that I just had trouble with throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
It was just like you said it. There were times where like I would try to position the camera so I could see things better, and either were forced back to an angle I didn't like, restricted in the motion, or just couldn't get it in the right angle that would allow me to whatever do or see or go in whatever direction that I needed.
Right.
And it was definitely a very probably the worst part of the game.
Yeah.
And I think it also we already said the combat was kind of basic, and so was the camera, the camera side of things. But it also frustrated me with both of those because one of the things you have is this M disc thrower. Basically, it's just
Mhm.
something that shoots CDs out, right? And if you noticed, it always it always when you went into the camera mode to either take a picture or shoot this M disc thing, it always went in the way that Jade was facing, which kind of makes sense. But I'd almost rather if they would have, hey, my camera, me the user, I'm facing this direction. When I go to zoom in, I want to look that direction, not try to position Jade in the to be, again, some of those areas and places you're fighting the camera already. So when I go into the camera to shoot the M disc or take a picture, I want to be facing the direction my camera's going. Um, and it was just again one of those little frustrations where the camera just seemed to be probably the biggest problem in this game.
Yep. Yep. It was probably the most technically problematic thing about the
Hmm.
game or one of the worst things about the game. I mean, the
Yeah.
story was kind of meh whatever. Some of the gameplay itself was kind of meh whatever, but yeah, the camera was the worst part. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up on a technical level is that the Steam PC client for this was ass. Trying to get that up and running was painful. Like,
Hmm.
I install the game on Steam. First thing I go into, I boot the game up. First thing I notice is two things. One, everybody's speaking in French. Two, I have like 5 frames a second. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I have to go on, do some Googling for a while and figure out that, oh, like somebody had to like create a mod or something like that to help, fix the frame rate that they added in like a newer like version of DirectX or something like that to
Hmm.
help make it more modern so that more modern systems can run this thing. Um, so I had to do that and I fixed that, but then all of the voice acting was still in French. And so I didn't know what the hell people were talking about.
So you quickly learned French, right?
Right. I quickly learned French in like a day so I could finish the rest of the game. No, that's not what happened. I ended up having to find like a Windows registry key because when you install it in Steam, it installs the registry key in one of the wrong places on your
Ooh,
Windows registry. So then it just defaults to French, French being the number 0 language that they use, I guess, for the game. So if nothing else, it will default to French, I guess.
wow.
So I had to change a registry key. But the reason I had to change a registry key is because they actually do have like a settings application that comes packaged with the game installer. So you use the settings application. Nope, can't use it because it says the game's not installed.
What the
So,
hell?
yeah, I was beating my head into this, trying to be like, okay, I just want to play this damn game for the book club, and I can't get around these technical issues. This is like,
Wow.
I'm mentioning this. This is just
Yeah,
absolutely
no, it's
frustrating.
I was gonna bring up a technical issue I ran into, but it's nothing compared to
Yeah, it
what you
was.
ran into.
Oh
So
god, it
so
was so
the tip
aggravating.
is don't play this on Steam, or be very familiar with being able to go into your registry to edit in anything like that.
Right.
Good thing this is on the PS2, the Xbox, GameCube, PS3, and 360, which you can play. I played the HD edition, which I actually I didn't look up to see what's different. I think it was just a re-release for the PlayStation 3 and 360, but it is backwards compatible for the Xbox One and Series X. That's how I played it on my fancy Series X. But the only technical issue I ran into was at one point after completing, I think a 15-minute section. It was when I initially was in. What was the where was Iris at? That the little city area. Oh, I forget what that area was called. When you're in the town on Hillys, whatever that is, it
The
there's
pedestrian
the
district?
pedestrian. There you go. Yep. And there was a bunch of the pearls are there, and I went and I did like one or two of the stages where you got to like work through and sneak through stuff to get a bunch of the pearls. And I went to go buy, I think it was the second to last upgrade on the hovercraft, which was the jump, right? And it was like 20 pearls. And I go up to the thing, I go to deposit my pearls to get my jump pack, and the game froze. So from that point on, I was scared that was going to happen all the time. So I kept saving left and right. That was the only crash I had. So it might have been a fluke, but it definitely, maybe keep an eye out, save frequently, which I will then which then continue, will take me into another point I want to make is some of this I think is just, as we've mentioned, it's a 19-year-old game, blah, blah, blah. But why they made the saving mechanism so clunky, at least on console, I'm assuming it functions the same way on PC, but maybe you guys have a quick save, quick load option there. But you had to go up into those like MDisk reader players. You had to select save. It popped you out into an animation and then popped you. It was so clunky. It was so slow. And it was just kind of frustrating. So yeah, I mean, the save functionality it was just weird. It was just one of the more clunky things.
Yeah, I didn't like using it either. I thought it was really weird that you had to go to like these different terminals and like go through the different like M discs that you had and then get to the save game one to put that in. Like it
Yep.
was kind of cute, but not fun or functional.
Yeah. Again, I think that was just kind of one of the clunkier things of the time. I know saving for some games back then could have been weird, but for
I
them
mean,
to add,
Halo
yeah,
did it pretty good.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the auto saves.
yeah,
Yep.
but uh, but yeah, I guess I think pretty much covered
We've
most
covered the whole
everything
game.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any kind of last thought? I guess. Well, what do you think about the game? What kind of rating would you give it? And would you recommend it to other people to play?
I thought the game was okay. That's as best as I'll put it. Is I don't really see what a lot of people have for like why people have such great nostalgia. Well, I mean, if you played it in the time period, I can see why this game would be pretty badass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely hasn't aged appropriately. So I don't quite get that same feeling of,
Yeah.
oh, like this game is incredible. There has to be a sequel. And I mean that's part of the reason why we're playing it is that, you know, eventually the sequel may or may not come out and we'll have to play it. But um I think that it's a passable game.
It's a neutral. You wouldn't give it a
Yes, it is a
campfire
neutral.
approval, but you wouldn't say it's a quite a dumpster fire.
It's not a dumpster fire. It's not a full on campfire. It's just like I don't know, whatever our neutral thing is.
Yeah, just that it exists.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, it was kind of the same thing. I was maybe a little bit more disappointed just because God, for years I've been meaning to play this game, and not like I don't want to say my expectations were super high, but it was supposed to be kind of that cult classic, kind of like when we played Psychonauts last year, which I thought,
Mhm.
yeah, we had our gripes about it, but I thought
It was
it was
good.
still really
Yeah,
fun and it was
and it
really
was
good.
really long. But
And yeah,
despite the fact that they had that stupid mechanic in there, the game was
yeah.
actually good in length.
So for this one, it was kind of a little bit disappointed, and to your point, I'm a little unsure kind of where the cult classic side of it comes from. Uh, and as someone who played a lot of those early, you know, probably more of my gaming career started in the Xbox era, you know, that Xbox era, PlayStation 2, GameCube era. I played a lot of those games during that generation, and to me, there were games that did some of the stuff, you know, better. You know, so I don't know. Maybe it'd be different.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, teenage Matt would have actually really liked this game, but I'm trying to put myself in the mindset and kind of bring me back to 2003, 2005. You know, we're getting things like we've had things like Halo and Halo 5. I know they're just a shooter, but you know, we've had things KOTOR, I think what is it? Psychonauts I thought came around that time as well. Like we had all these other games that to me did really well. So I am still a little confused
World of
at like
Warcraft.
yeah, so I'm still kind of confused where how this is a cult classic. I see some things here I would have probably liked, and I think as we've discussed, especially with the camera stuff and taking pictures, I would have liked to see more of. But
Yeah.
you know, again, too, for me, I wouldn't say it's a dumpster fire. It wasn't bad.
It was
I
just
guess
alright.
it was just it
It's
was
passable.
yeah, it was a good book club game. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend other people to play it. And I'd be very curious again, especially since they didn't have this crazy story or really deep world building. And obviously, we don't know a lot about Beyond Good and Evil 2 and if it'll ever come out. But, you know, through the years, I've watched and kind of got excited. And usually, every time they release a trailer or gameplay for Beyond Good and Evil 2, I get excited and go, I should go play the first one. And then they don't. Uh, but like the stuff they've shown in the trailer, I'm really curious how that connects to what we had going on here in the first game. So, you know, I guess
Hard to
that's
say.
yet to be seen if, you know, if we ever actually if Beyond Good and Evil 2 ever sees the light of day and see how that works, but
Yeah, it's
uh
currently getting Duke Nukemed right now.
yeah, yeah, it's I'm very curious. I hope it's one of the games Ubisoft talks about. If they don't talk about it this year, whatever event they have, it's going to be very very odd.
Yeah.
So it's stuck in development hell. It was very ambitious too. The last time we saw it shown off,
Yeah.
very kind of No Man's Sky vibe, where it's like you can go anywhere and you
Yeah, you
can
can do all these
literally yeah.
things. Yeah.
That then you know they did demo that you know fly down into a city and then fly back out to space and you know so
So I do think, yeah, like, is it like, do you have to pick this up right now? No. If you're kind of interested, I'd say, yeah, if you want to wait for it to be on like a Steam sale or something like that, be a good pickup for a Steam sale.
yeah.
Just throw it on one of those like backlogs that you have. If you got like a mountain of games that you'll never play, like I do, you can toss it on there too. It's good.
Just remember too, if you're on Steam, you got to go through this whole rigmarole that you did.
Be
It
prepared
is
for the technical issues because it is old.
as of right now, the HD edition was $3 on the Microsoft or Xbox store, whatever. So
Well, there you go. Play
maybe
that one
that's an
instead.
easier way of going about it.
Yeah, do that one instead if you have an Xbox.
But yeah, cool.
Cool.
Well, I think that about does it. Unless you have any last words for Beyond Good and Evil.
I don't think I do.
All right. I'm going to butcher it again, but just a reminder, April's book club game is Chicory, A Colorful Tale. Did I say it right that time?
There you go. I think as far as I know, that's right.
So again, it looks like you can pick that up on Steam,
Steam, Switch.
Switch, and PlayStation. I don't think it's on Xbox, but at least I didn't see it there. So go ahead and pick that up, play along with us, and join us next month when we chat. And as a reminder as well, you can also find us at campfiregamingpodcast.com, where, as said, we have links to all our socials, Discord, where you can join in and possibly give us recommendations to, future book club titles, as well as participate in conversations with us and the rest of the community. And again, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, it's all there. Please give us a like, subscribe, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you, whether it's good or bad. We don't care. We just want to hear from you. Make sure you're not dead. Make sure you're okay. Maybe we can make them check in on Twitter, right? You okay? Just tweet at us. Comment. What's that stupid Facebook check-in bullshit? Anyways, I'm rambling. We'll end it here. And as always, thanks for joining me, Rich.
Oh, of course. Looking forward to the next book club.
You bet. And until next time, we'll see you. I butchered it. Oh my god! Until next time, we'll see you. I butchered it. Who put me in charge of this goddamn show?
We'll see you next time around the campfire.